Hello, I am Nikisha Leatherwood, and for this discussion, I will be discussing the two types of leadership that influenced me or that really stuck to me after reading chapter 5. And the two types, they're very similar, which might be why they both stood out to me, is transformational leadership and also the one that is charismatic leadership. So, transformational leadership was coined by James McGregor Burns. And what I like about the transformational leader, or an overall description of the transformational leader, is that they actually have the ability to lead by change and advocate for change. There are some terms or some definitions that really make a transformational leader stick out. For example, they have idealized influence. They are able to influence others to work together for a common good. They also are inspirational and motivational. And I think that all of us at some point desire to be inspired, or actually maybe not, but for me, one who likes to be inspired to do my work, I like a leader who is also inspiring. Also, they have intellectual, they're very smart, so they stimulate their followers intellectually. So that type of leader is someone that I actually like because of their ability to cause me to think at higher levels, or to just think on a different just different levels sometimes, or a different wavelength. Also, they have individualized consideration for their followers. So a transformational leader has the ability to inspire their leaders through motivation, through change, and get them to work together. Now, some of the strengths of this type of leader is over time, they may actually help to change some of the innate characteristics and values within a person to cause them to think at that level more in the long run. Some of the drawbacks, though, to leaders who are transformational, I find that as a transformational leader myself, I think that's one that I would really say I lent more towards. It could be very fatiguing, always trying to motivate people, because sometimes you just need to get the job done. What I also like about transformational leaders is they do carry some of those qualities of a transactional leader, which you have your exchange of rewards, and you know, if you do what you're supposed to do, you're rewarded. If not, sometimes you're punished. However, with transformational leaders, they don't rely on that type of negativity as often. However, again, as I mentioned earlier, it's very fatiguing sometimes to be just always trying to transform people and change and inspire people, because I think that your personal reservoir becomes empty. And if you're not doing what you need to do to refill yourself, then you can wear out and drain very easily. Also, I don't think that this approach is always accepted by people who don't necessarily want to be inspired. Some people are very transactional. What do you need me to do? Tell me what to do, and how do I do it? And they're not all caught up in being inspired and motivated. They just want to do their job. So this type of leadership may not be best in certain situations. I like it though, because as a school-based principal, especially in a turnaround school, where I am tasked with teacher retention and making sure that I'm keeping teachers and making sure that teachers are doing their best. When you are so transactional, it doesn't really keep people inspired and motivated over the long haul. And when you think of retention, you need to be able to keep your people, keep them motivated, but at the same time, as the leader, you have to keep yourself motivated as well. The second type of leadership theory that really stood out to me is the charismatic leader. Now, the text mentions some, such as Dr. Martin Luther King, Mother Teresa. There's also charismatic leaders like Hitler, who also were able to be charismatic to their followers. Some of the traits of a charismatic leader: they possess and articulate vision. They also have a willingness to take risks, and I'm a risk taker. I'm against the status quo. So someone who is charismatic might look at the status quo or a situation and be willing to go above and beyond, sacrifice to get the job done. They also, as mentioned with the transformational leader, they exhibit sensitivity to their followers, and they demonstrate sometimes novel behavior. Other times they don't. Some of now when we talk about this theory, it was first coined by Max Weber in 1947, but then later Robert House in the late 70s expounded upon this theory. Again, they advocate for vision. They are servant leaders. They are very confident, persuasive, the ability to persuade people. And I think that that's a quality of a charismatic leader, because sometimes if you can persuade people or influence people to come together for a certain cause and to work together for the common goal, then people feel like they are a part of something, kind of like a movement. To me, when I think of a charismatic leader, I think of movements. Dr. King, Mother Teresa, past president Barack Obama was a charismatic leader who was able to bring people together for change and for a cause. Whether people agreed or disagreed, he still was charismatic. Some of the strengths, again, of charismatic leaders are they are inspirational, and that's good for people who desire and want to be inspired. They have the ability to bring people together for the common goal. A common cause. They are reflective sometimes over their mistakes. Now that could be a negative if people want people to just be perfect and get the job done, and don't like to take time for reflection. And they also are able to keep moving forward towards the mission and the vision for which they are selected to serve. However, one of the major drawbacks and weaknesses to a charismatic leader is succession planning. So when you have a leader who everyone is caught up into the actual leader himself because they possess charisma, which is something that many people believe that everyone is not charismatic, then the organization sometimes does not flourish once that leader is gone, if he suddenly dies, if something happens. I kind of think about a church that I went to once, and the pastor died. He was a very charismatic pastor, and then it was like when he died, people kind of fell away from the church. And so it made me think, well, were we going to church for the word of God, or were we going for the leader, or both? And I'm not saying that one is right or wrong, but when you have a person who people are caught up into that person because they actually like them, then if something happens to that person, then sometimes the organization suffers. I do remember a lot of people left the church. They did go to other churches. The new person brought in people. Now, this person, I think, had charisma as well. However, I think so many people were just caught up in the charisma or the qualities of the deceased pastor. I actually like, again, the charismatic leader because like I said, resist the status quo. And I like that sometimes the boat needs to be rocked. You need to go against the grain. So I hope to learn more in this course about the different leadership traits and styles, more between being a manager versus being a leader, or both. As a principal, I am required to be a leader as much as I am required to be a manager. So it was and I think as I read this chapter, it was very informing because I remember being placed into the school I was. I also think that it was somewhat situational. So when we look at all these theories, I think that some of them overlap in what they do, and that in all leaders, you kind of find some of these overlapping or overarching qualities, and depending on the situation or the contingency, you might be placed in a situation where you are required to have multiple skill sets. So I enjoyed reading chapter 5 and sharing with you all. Have a blessed day. Thank you.